You think you're the good one. You scroll through the news and you feel it, that quiet contempt. Another corrupt politician, another idiot making noise, another person who simply doesn't think before they speak. And you do. You think, you care, you hold yourself to a standard. You call people out, at work, online, at the dinner table, not to start a fight, to be honest, to hold the line because someone has to. You correct people when they're wrong, not because it makes you feel superior, you're not like that, but because you can't just let it go. You're wired for accuracy, for fairness. And when someone finally concedes the point, when they go quiet, when you feel that small victory ripple through your chest, you tell yourself it's justice. Carl Jung spent decades studying the story we tell about ourselves. He called it the persona, the face we build for the world, the character we inhabit so completely that we forget it's a character.
For a lot of us, that character is the hero. Rational, principled, clear-eyed, the one who sees through the noise, the one who doesn't look away. It's a good story, clean, respectable. But Jung had a habit of asking uncomfortable questions. Here's one. Why does anger feel energizing? Not draining, energizing. Your focus sharpens, your words come faster, you feel more awake, more present, more real than you do in most moments of the day. Here's another. Why do you feel empty on quiet days, when there's no argument to resolve, no incompetence to correct, no battle to fight? Why do you sometimes go looking for one? Something is feeding on the conflict, and it isn't your conscience.
Look closer. It isn't just disagreement. You want to win. You want the other person to know they lost. It isn't just correction. You want exposure. You want the flaw brought into the light, pinned there, visible to anyone watching. It isn't just defense. You want dominance. Notice that you replay arguments, not to process them, to refine them. You run the conversation again in your head and find the line you should have said, the sharper version, the one that would have left no room for a response.
You've rehearsed sentences no one will ever hear. Notice how conflict makes you feel alive. Jung called it the shadow, not a metaphor for evil, not a dramatic concept for villains, a very specific psychological mechanism. Everything you cannot accept about yourself, every impulse you consider beneath you, every desire you find shameful, every dark instinct you decide isn't really you, it doesn't disappear. It goes underground, and from underground, it finds another way out.
Your aggression doesn't vanish when you suppress it. It resurfaces as moral outrage. Your hunger for power doesn't dissolve when you refuse to name it. It reappears as righteous correction. Your desire to humiliate doesn't cease to exist simply because you consider yourself above that kind of thing. You've just given it a better costume. You call it passion. You call it standards. You call it integrity. Ask yourself, why does it feel so good to win an argument with someone you claim to be trying to help? Why is there satisfaction, almost physical, when someone finally goes quiet? Why do you feel a cold clarity, not grief, not relief, but clarity when you've proven someone wrong in front of others? What are you actually after? The truth, or the moment after the truth when they have to accept it? Because those are not the same thing.
The hero archetype, at its core, is built around a function. Order against chaos, light against darkness, the strong protecting the weak. It's one of the oldest stories in human psychology, and for good reason. It works, it organizes behavior, it creates meaning. But the hero needs a dragon. Without the dragon, the function collapses, the identity collapses, and that loss of self is unbearable. So when there's no dragon, you find one. You lower the threshold. You start seeing threats where there are inconveniences, enemies where there are people who simply disagree, corruption where there is merely incompetence. You exaggerate, unconsciously, automatically, You dehumanize, not dramatically, not with slurs or violence, subtly. You stop seeing the person and start seeing the flaw, the weakness, the type, the category. And once someone is a category, they stop being someone you're trying to help. They become something you're trying to defeat. This is the point where the hero and the tyrant share a face. Jung described projection, the mechanism by which the shadow expresses itself through our perception of others. The weakness you despise in other people, think about it clearly, not the abstract idea, the specific kind of weakness that disgusts you most, the specific failure that makes you most contemptuous. It mirrors something in you that you refuse to tolerate. The person you call stupid, what is it exactly that infuriates you about their thinking? Is it that they don't question themselves? That they accept things without examination? That they perform confidence they haven't earned?
Look at those characteristics slowly. Look at when you've done the same. Jung wrote, and I'm paraphrasing closely, that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You will call it justice. You will call it principle. You will call it protecting something important. But you're not fighting evil. You're feeding your shadow. Sit with that.
There are moments that are harder to explain away. That flash, brief, almost subconscious when someone stumbles in front of others and you feel something that isn't sympathy. It's gone almost before you register it, but it was there. That cold indifference after you've won. Not relief, not satisfaction that the right outcome happened. Indifference, as if the person on the other side was never quite real. That secret, quiet pleasure when someone who challenged you publicly fails at something later. You don't celebrate it. You wouldn't say it out loud, but you notice it, and you let yourself feel it for just a second. You tell yourself, they deserved it. But the question isn't whether they deserved it. The question is, why did it feel good? Not abstractly good, physically good. Something in the body, something old and fast and non-verbal. Because your shadow isn't moral. It doesn't speak the language of principles. It speaks a much older language. Dominance, status, territory. Remove the intellectual framework for a moment. Remove the language of fairness and justice and speaking truth to power. What's left?
A primate who won a confrontation. A predator who outmaneuvered a rival. A creature that fought for position in a hierarchy and came out above. That is what your body is responding to. That is why it feels good. Your civilization is real, your values are real, but they are not the whole story. You are not as civilized as you think, and your morality may not be the master of your behavior. It may be the leash, a well-maintained leash, a tightly held one, but still a leash on something that pulls. And if you don't know what's on the other end, you cannot know whether you are walking it or whether slowly, carefully, it is walking you.
You have two choices. They are not equal. The first, keep denying it. Keep insisting that your anger is always earned, your contempt always justified, your victories always in service of something real and good. This is comfortable, and it is corrosive. Because what you refuse to see continues to operate in the dark. It grows more rigid, more demanding. The threshold for enemies lowers further. The satisfaction from winning requires more. What once satisfied you, a concession, an acknowledgement, starts to feel insufficient. You need humiliation, collapse, silence. You become brittle. You become, slowly and without knowing it, precisely the thing you've spent your life opposing.
The second choice is harder. It asks something most people will not give. Admit it. Not to others, not performatively, quietly, privately, with honesty. Admit, I enjoy the fight, not just the outcome, the fight itself. Admit, there is something in me that likes the moment when someone breaks. Admit, what I call justice sometimes covers something much older and much less clean.
This is not about justifying cruelty. It's not a permission structure. It's not an excuse. It's the only path toward what Jung called wholeness. Not purity. He was not interested in purity. Purity is another mask, another persona, another story we tell ourselves. Wholeness means knowing what's in you, all of it, and choosing consciously, deliberately, with full awareness, what you do with it.
The shadow integrated into consciousness becomes something it could never be in the dark: useful, contained, directed. A person who knows they enjoy dominance can choose when to use that edge and when to hold it back. A person who denies it will use it constantly and call it something else. The most dangerous people in any room are not the openly cruel. You can see them, you can prepare. The most dangerous people are the righteous, the ones who are so thoroughly convinced of their own goodness that the cruelty passes through them unexamined, invisible to them because it arrives wearing principle. Because the leash is only as reliable as the person holding it. And if you believe you are incapable of cruelty, you will never check your grip.
So the next time you feel it, that spike, that sharpening, that animal readiness right before a confrontation, stop for 1 second. Not to retreat, not to suppress, just long enough to ask a single honest question. Am I defending something, or am I hunting?